What is up, YouTube people? Eric here with Team Badman, and it is not Friday. No, it is not Friday today. It is only Tuesday. But as opposed to our usual Friday Quick Looks videos, which cover MPs and Masteries and new named cards, we have been getting reveals the past couple of Tuesdays, including this Tuesday, relating to the new Dragon Ball set that we are getting in Awakening. Now, we've been clamoring for a new set of Dragon Balls for quite a while. The Namek Dragon Balls have been around for the past 6 sets since the very beginning of the game, and we're all very familiar with what they do. They're all very effective, and of course, there's something that we're so familiar with that it was about time for a change, something that we wanted a little bit different of, and we are finally getting that here in Awakening. Yeah, we are getting the Earth Dragon Ball set, which is a whole new round of Dragon Balls. Some of them are similar to their original Namekian counterparts, and some of them are unique enough to stand out on their own and be very unique tech for a wide variety of decks, even just as a standalone and not necessarily built around a Dragon Ball Victory deck. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at all of that right now. And of course, if we're going to start out with the Dragon Ball set, we have to start out with Earth Dragon Ball 1. Yeah, we're going to go through all 7 of the Dragon Balls in numeric order. And we're going to start out with the absolute first one of them, Earth Dragon Ball 1, which has some similarities to its original Namek Dragon Ball 1 counterpart, but enough to make it unique on its own. So as we know, Namek Dragon Ball 1 provides a +1 life card buff to all of the attacks of the owner. No other Dragon Balls on their side of the field can be captured, which is absolutely great. It's something that you want to get out early, something to place into play. Protect all the other Dragon Balls as you build up your side of the board. Well, the new Earth Dragon Ball 1 doesn't really protect you from your Dragon Balls being taken, but instead it's got incentive if it gets taken on its own. So the powers of Earth Dragon Ball 1 say that all attacks deal +1 life card of damage, so it's a little bit of a double-edged sword to have it in play. But the second effect of this ball says, whenever it is captured, whoever captured it can choose to shuffle it back into its owner's life deck. Now that may not seem like a really big deal, just puts an extra card back to your opponent's life deck, or puts an extra one back into yours, which can be nice. But the real benefit here is if both you and your opponent are playing Earth Dragon Balls and you don't want any of your Dragon Balls banished, especially in the early game. So this has a nice benefit of clearing an extra ball off your opponent's side of the board or off of your side of the board. And it either puts a card back in your deck or it gives you the ability to play an Earth Dragon Ball 1 of your own. It's going to be a really nice benefit to just about any ball deck that's going to utilize it. I can't see this ball being very much used just kind of as a solo one on its own in a variety of decks. If you really need an extra life card buff, you could always run the Blue Resolute Mastery, or there are plenty of drills and other styles that add extra damage to your attacks. But it's a nice linchpin for the rest of the Dragon Ball set, and it's got a really cool effect on its own to kind of help remove the concern of it being banished out of the way. Next on the list is, of course, Earth Dragon Ball 2, on which Namek Dragon Ball 2 is known as one of the most disruptive Dragon Balls in the entire game, particularly for fast leveling or anger-oriented decks, on the fact that it lowers a player's MP 1 full level. This is both useful for really messing with your opponent, especially if they're trying to MPPV or using effects like Unleash and whatnot at fast level. But this is also beneficial for your own MP if you're, stage locked at a level, or maybe you're on an MP level where you don't necessarily want to be, such as Cooler level 4 if you've already used your power, or Cell level 4, or you want to get back to, maybe Piccolo's level 2 or Gohan's level 2 or whatever it might be. You get the extra option to lower your own MP as well, and it can also give you stages back, which are an all-time premium because of the popularity of stage damage dealing decks. However, Earth Dragon Ball 2 takes away the ability of allowing you to select your own MP, and it only targets your opponents. However, to make up for this, the benefit is that you can not only lower your opponent's MP 1 level, but you can also advance them as well, which can be very beneficial for certain decks like to camp on particular levels. You could see this going to effect against, the ever-popular Krillin decks, though of course it's also dangerous because while Krillin's level 1 is great, so is his level 2, so if you're trying to get him off that 1, it might be dangerous. But it's also effective in getting, camping Piccolo decks off of their levels, or trying to get Cell decks or Brawly decks away from particular levels. Of course, if you need to, you can always lower your opponent's MP as well, prevent them from winning by MPPV quite as easily, or prevent them from getting a lot of benefit out of Unleashed, banished or whatever it may be. You know, like always, it's going to be a risk, but it's also got some really nice benefit to it, especially with the advent of the same dynamic mastery, which allows players to start up on level 2. So at this point, drawing into Dragon Ball 2 first turn isn't necessarily a bad thing. Whether your opponent stays on level 1 or whether using the dynamic mastery to go up to level 2, either way, this does actually have some nice early game application to it, and it's not one that you're really going to want to put back into the deck and then wonder, where'd it go? Where did I put this ball? Why haven't I seen it yet? There's a lot of fun strategy I think that could really go around using this one, but it's still one you don't want to get captured, so play very carefully with it. Following that is Earth Dragon Ball 3, which compared to the original Namek Dragon Ball 3 still bears a lot of similarity. Of course, you still get to draw cards, cards still go back into the life deck, and anger still gets raised, but you don't get quite as much variance, and instead you get extra tech for your discard pile. So the effect of Earth Dragon Ball 3 says draw the bottom 3 cards of your discard pile. So you get to take them straight out of discard. You know, it's got a pseudo Namek Dragon Ball 7 effect to it in which you're able to get cards out of there. And then the secondary effect says shuffle 2 cards from your hand back into your life deck. So, you know, it's still getting cards back straight out of the discard pile, while it may be 2 as opposed to 3. It's still cards that are going back in, and this is huge in styles that don't have a lot of discard pile recursion. Black gets a lot of benefit, orange does, red does. Basically, any style at this point is going to get a lot of benefit out of Earth Dragon Ball 3. But the third extra benefit to Earth Dragon Ball 3 is you raise your anger 1 level, as opposed to tooling with a player's anger, just straight raises yours. I can see this one going as a solo Dragon Ball in a lot of decks that really want to get cards back out, but you're also going to want a way to protect it as well. Some styles like Blue Resolute would get a whole lot of benefit out of this. Orange would get benefit when you can utilize Hiding Drill to wick off some of the extra damage. MPs that prevent damage, like the new Goku stack, or Hercule, or Garlic Jr., can get quite a lot of benefit out of this, especially in styles, like I mentioned, that don't have a lot of discard power recursion for them. So it's just a really solid card all around, while still keeping the flavor of Namek Dragon Ball 3. And it just feels good. It feels really good as a Dragon Ball, and I think it fits into the stack very, very well. And for the final Dragon Ball that is similar to its original Namekian counterpart, we have Earth Dragon Ball 4. Now, Namek Dragon Ball 4 is known quite popularly for its raw clutch value, of course, inside the hashtag here, Clutch Dragon Ball 4. In its ability to destroy up to 2 sets of drills on the field. Now, this is a really big deal if your opponent just laid down Visiting the Past, or Red Relaxation, Blue Dominance, Black Power Up, Black Searching Technique, Master Roshi's Slumber. There are a lot of cards that really don't want to see Namek Dragon Ball 4 hit the field. It can really kill what could have been some potential momentum for a lot of decks. It has a knack of popping up the worst possible times for players who have board presence. Earth Dragon Ball 4 still has some field hate to it, but it's a little bit different than the original Namek Dragon Ball 4. But at the same time, in order to make up for it, it does get some extra damage tacked onto it, a little bit of extra deck destruction. It's one that could really get utilized over and over again to some great effect. So, Earth Dragon Ball 4 allows you to destroy up to 2 allies that are on the board, which is extremely beneficial to a lot of decks right now, especially with the popularity of ally decks right now, such as Namekian Resort Gohan, Blue Tag Team Ginyu, Red Enraged Cooler utilizes allies, Blue Protective Cooler utilizes allies. Any 13 deck is going to utilize allies as a major part of its game plan. So being able to just immediately disrupt those and force your opponent to have to use something to pull them out of the discard pile is really nice and beneficial. Now, its additional effect says destroy the top 2 cards of your opponent's life deck. So it's got a little bit of that Dragon Ball 7 tinge to it, the original Namek Dragon Ball 7. You're dealing some consistent damage to it, and it's one that you don't necessarily want to trade over the course of the game because you don't get cards back with it. But it's got some really nice tech for right now, and if if the ally decks remain around after Awakening, I can see this one being teched in as well as a various one of. But at the same time, just the mill effect alone could see a lot of benefit for this in decks that like to utilize some of those mill effects. Dr. Wheelo could really get a little bit of fun out of this. Cell decks that utilize Cell's style and some of the more destructive effects can get a lot of benefit out of this. Piccolo, of course, will get some great benefit out of this. Just about anything that is really going to appreciate cards getting out of the life deck and into their opponent's discard pile easily are going to get A lot of raw benefit out of this, and especially ones that struggle with allies as well. So I can even see us going to... And now we get to the fun Dragon Balls, the ones that... are you serious? So Earth Dragon Balls 5, 6, and 7 don't necessarily match their original Namekian counterparts, but instead they've got their own fun tech and fun effects. They're going to be a real asset to decks to run them, including one Dragon Ball that is going to fit in almost seamlessly into a huge variety of decks, especially ones that like escaping combat. So first off, we've got Earth Dragon Ball 5, which doesn't really match the original counterpart just about at all. Of course, Namek Dragon Ball 5 was one of the most popular ones to pull out with cards like Dragon Radar, gain 5 stages, raise rank 1 level, draw a card, rejuvenate 1. Plenty of tech there, especially for decks that wanted to continue to prolong combat. Needed some stages, that's great. It was a very popular choice to pull out for the Evolution Piccolo, where it was possible to gain, I believe, up to 4 anger off of it in just 1 instant of playing the card, which is fantastic. Earth Dragon Ball 5 says you may shuffle a Dragon Ball in play into its owner's life deck. So if you've got a ball that got captured, maybe one that you really wanted, like Dragon Ball 2 or Dragon Ball 7 we're going to get to later or something like that, you can get that right back into your life deck without having to rely on a hit effect or utilizing some other card in order to do it, which is absolutely great, especially if you've got a ball in your hand that you want to play, but your opponent has it on their side of the field, so you can force them to shuffle it back in and then use one of your own and kind of mess with them there. Your MP gains 3 stages as well, which, as we know, stages are an all-time premium. It's a really big deal. The original Namek Dragon Ball 5 did that, and that's actually the only similarity here, so that works well. The last effect says banish 3 cards from a discard pile. Now, while of course you can use this as a pseudo-devastating blow to your opponent and really get out some of those key cards they want to utilize, like Time's a Warrior's Tool, or Black Power-Up, or maybe some really strong tech cards that they've got on their side that they could pull out a really useful block or something like that. You can also set up your own discard pile for a wide variety of effects. Now this is especially useful in red style, where you've got cards that when they're banished out of your discard pile you gain anger or you get an additional effect, but it's also effective for setting up red relaxation, in which you can kind of tool the bottom of your discard pile in order to utilize it to the best effect. This also works very well with Earth Dragon Ball 3, to where you can tool the bottom 3 cards that you're going to draw into to pick ones that you want to go back in, pick one that you're going to keep in your hand. So there's a lot of raw effect here. Discard pile hate is a huge deal. This provides all the more reason for decks that are actually going for Dragon Ball Victory to utilize that to at least some effect. I like seeing that on a Dragon Ball, seeing the ability to banish cards from your opponent's discard pile. Next is quite possibly the most powerful of all the Earth Dragon Balls that we got, Earth Dragon Ball 6. Now, the original Dragon Ball 6 was a very popular capture point. Your PRR goes +3 and all attacks deal -2 stages of damage, which has been one of the single most popular detriments to a lot of physical beatdown decks. Even in the era of Brawly and 13 and whatnot, it's still extremely powerful and it's a very popular capture target. This one bears 0 similarity to any of that, but it's got an effect that Dragon Ball players have been dying for a very long time. So the first effect of Earth Dragon Ball 6 says, whenever a Dragon Ball you own is banished, when taking damage, or by an opponent's effect, rejuvenate that Dragon Ball. So at this point, you don't really need to worry about having your Dragon Balls be banished if your opponent is dealing damage, or if your opponent tries to take them away with Brawly, or with Black Corruption, or Black Capture, or whatever it might be. That's been a very big deal for a lot of Dragon Ball decks, in that a lot of them can't get balls back unless they're playing Information Gathering, or if they're Piccolo and utilizing the Evolution level 4. So this is really strong, and it may be the single strongest incentive to actually play Earth Dragon Balls for Dragon Ball Victory, as opposed to the Namek Dragon Balls. Along with that, you get the additional effect that at the end of combat, you may place this card on the bottom of its owner's life deck to rejuvenate 1. So if you control it, if it's yours, you can put it back and get an extra 2 card benefit back into your life deck, which is not only useful in the early game if you want to try to keep your deck as fast stacked as possible, and it's also very strong late game if you're not trying to go for a Dragon Ball Victory approach at this point in the game, and you just want cards back in your deck as fast as you possibly can. And lastly, as expected, we get to Earth Dragon Ball 7. And now Namek Dragon Ball 7 is one of the most popular swing cards in the entire game, and for very good reason. It's a 6-card swing both ways between you stacking 3 and your opponent milling 3. On a well-timed play of this or well-timed capture can completely swing the momentum of the game into any given player's favor. So it's been very, very popular, and it's one that's known to just be that single reason players say, I lost that game for no other reason. So that's extremely useful, and while Earth Dragon Ball 7 doesn't really have that level of effect, it's got raw tech ability into a larger variety of decks, especially ones that, like I said earlier, like ending combat, which is the parenthetical effect of this card. It says once per game, you may play this card from your hand to end combat, which is immensely powerful, as we know with popular cards like Black Power Up and Blinding Energy Move, and cards that force your opponent to pass like Trunks Slam or Yamcha's Expert Assistance. Getting out of combat, especially if your opponent's got a really fat stacked hand, is an absolutely huge deal, and it can really screw with opponents. This one is very useful in that it doesn't feel like a dead Dragon Ball if you draw into it because of that effect. This other continuous effect, while not quite as powerful, says once per turn as an action, you may place a Dragon Ball from your hand into play, which means that other Dragon Balls don't become dead cards either. And while you don't get their immediate effects for playing them and whatnot, there are some more Earth Dragon Balls, I think, that enjoy the benefit of being placed into play, as opposed to Namek Dragon Balls. So you can get Ball 1, or Ball 6, or Ball 5, whatever it might be. Ones that just want to slip into play and stay there are going to get a little bit more benefit out of this. But this is an effect that tons of decks are going to get raw benefit out of, especially decks that like to be disruptive. Trunks decks are going to get huge mileage out of it, with the ability to force their opponent to skip multiple actions into combat and then just escape out by playing the Dragon Ball. 18 gets tons of benefit out of this by raw virtue of having a ton of combat enders in Android 18's Armbreaker and access to Blinding Energy Move, and if you're playing in black, of course you also have Black Power Up. So there are tons of ways to just really disrupt your opponent here. And of course, with the last card we're going to take a look at, you'll see where a lot of other decks are going to get a ton of benefit out of running Earth Dragon Ball 7 as well. So let's just go ahead and take a look at that. So the last card that we have got here is Allied Blitz, which is our second ultra rare for the set. This alongside Assisted Kamehameha. So surface level, it's an energy attack, 1 stage for 3 life cards, and it has Endurance 3 on it, which is the first ultra rare that we have seen with Endurance since Villainous Empowerment in set 2. So this is a really big deal. 3 Endurance is great for any deck, and the fact that it's a freestyle and can be teched in so many decks, you're going to get a lot of benefit out of that extra Endurance in there. It could be really clutch at various moments. The immediate effect of Allied Blitz says, whenever you perform an energy attack, your opponent skips his or her next action. Talking about disruption with Earth Dragon Ball 7, here you go! So it caters a lot towards energy beats kind of decks, ones that like to just unload a whole bunch of energy attacks, but at the same time still have that worry about being stage locked. Stage locking is a huge deal for energy decks. This is going to help work around that very nicely. Along with all this goodness is an additional hit effect that is almost specifically catered to one specific archetype in the game. And this hit effect says, if your MP is not a Saiyan, for the remainder of combat, your allies can take over combat regardless of your MP's power stage. Now, on immediate glance, this caters to one specific deck in the game, and that is Captain Ginyu, who's going to get monstrous mileage out of this card. Absolutely tremendously powerful, especially with the access to a lot of energy attack-oriented allies that he has available. But of course, that's not the only deck that's really going to appreciate this. Other decks that utilize some strong allies are going to get a lot of benefit out of this. Android 17, Android 18 are going to get some benefit if they include some of the extra allies that are in there. Once again, going back to Android 13, who has a whole lot of power there. Krillin can even get some benefit out of this if you do a little bit of a Krillin Friends variant, where you have a fantastic energy attack related allies in Tien and Yamcha. I can see this being a card relatively in demand, though I can still see it being kind of niche for only some of those decks, and arguably in my mind Assisted Kamehameha is still going to be the more popular of the ultra rares. But that is going to do it for our look at the Earth Dragon Balls. They're going to be, I think, a fantastic tool to utilize in just a ton of different decks. And it doesn't necessarily need to be decks that are oriented around Dragon Ball Victory. Of course, Dragon Ball 7 can be teched into a whole bunch of decks. Earth Dragon Ball 4 can be teched into decks that struggle with ally issues. Dragon Ball 3 and Dragon Ball 5 can be utilized for some combo potential. It's going to be a lot of incentive, I think, to actually run these Dragon Balls, especially with Dragon Ball 6 and its ability to prevent Dragon Balls from being banished. Ultimately, though, I still think the Namek Dragon Balls are going to be slightly stronger suited towards the Dragon Ball Victory approach. Of course, Dragon Ball 1, preventing your Dragon Balls from being captured, is going to be a really, really nice benefit there. You've still got stronger Dragon Balls overall to keep your balls on your side of the field in Dragon Ball 7 and in Dragon Ball 5. There's going to be plenty of reasons to still run that. I can see Earth Dragon Balls being viable as well. Especially if you're going to be doing a draft variant for your release event, because all these Dragon Balls are uncommon, as opposed to 3 commons, 3 uncommons, and a rare. All of these are fitting in the same rarity, so it's very possible that you could draft into all of these as you go, but ultimately we're just going to have to see how everything plays out. So that is going to do it for this quick looks over the new Earth Dragon Balls as well as the Ultra Allied Blitz. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to leave those thumbs down below and give me a like. I would really appreciate it. If not, click the dislike button down below and let me know what you guys didn't like so that way I can change it for later on this week. Of course, we will have another quick looks on Friday detailing the Red Ascension Mastery and the new Trunk stack. So, I would like to get all that updated with whatever you guys didn't like. So please be sure to let me know down in the comments section. Also, if you guys haven't hit that subscribe button down below, please be sure to do so you can follow this series and all of our other series. We've got some more quick looks that are coming up in the near future. We've got a bunch of deck ideas that are going around. There are going to be some matches after Awakening comes out. We've got some other little fun stuff here, a little bit of something for you more eclectic guys, so be sure to check all that out. And lastly, if you haven't found us on social media, all those links are down below as well. So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Libsyn, which is podcast hosting. I know I've been talking about it for a really long time now, but I finally have the time to dedicate towards getting all this taken care of. So we'll have that up for you guys very, very soon here. And you guys will know all about it when it comes out. So that, like I said, is going to do it for this version of Quick Looks. I'm Eric with Team Badman signing out. So thank you guys so much for watching. And like always, stay bad. We'll see you guys on Friday for the reveal of the Red Ascension Mastery and the new Trunk stack. Catch you later.